Super Earth, our home. Prosperity. Liberty.
Hi there.
Democracy. Our way of life.
Oh, hello.
But freedom doesn't come free.
No! Sweet liberty! No! Look familiar?
What would happen if the United States took over the entire world in a mock future where bugs might be coming for your family? That would be what happens if you get into Helldivers 2, where they discuss what it might look like if that were the very type of thing that might happen. As the wiki states, Helldivers 2 takes place in a satirical futuristic setting in which mankind is ruled by the managed democracy of Super Earth, approximately a century after the events of the first game. Players take the roles of Helldivers, expendable elite soldiers who fight and die to protect the rest of humanity from various enemy factions. Helldivers 2 is a tactical shooter presented from a third-person perspective, unlike its predecessor, which was an isometric top-down. This is supposed to be cooperative gameplay with up to 4 players, and they're encouraged to coordinate their actions and tactics, etc., etc., etc. Now, why am I discussing this game? I've never played it on the channel, and you've never seen any indications I would ever play it at all, and that is because one of my kids does. Actually, 2 of my kids, okay, 3 of my kids do. 2 of them own the game, though. And that's where I come in. You see, they family shared the account to me, and I started looking into the game. And what is one of the first things I bump into but this update that's coming? In fact, it looks like they're going to require a PlayStation Network account in order to play Helldivers 2 in the future. In fact, if you have not purchased the game already, you'll need to have that PlayStation Network account ready to go on the 6th of May. And if you have already started playing Helldivers 2, you'll be able to wait until, I believe it's June 6th. That's the situation, and the one I want to talk about. Now, this has caused a lot of consternation. If you're not familiar, Sony is not exactly known for, shall we say, robust data security practices. In fact, there's been enough leaks of their data to constitute more of a Titanic than necessarily a modern USS Enterprise. So that's the overall situation, is that people are up in arms. They bought the game. It's been out about, as I understand it, about 3 months. They bought the game under the understanding that they would not be required to do anything but log into Steam. Now, some of this was a communication issue with the studio. That would be Arrowhead Games. This is a Swedish developer who's started doing this type of work. And let me tell you, if the quality of what I'm seeing in the intro is any indication, they have got something really going on here. So we've got a lot of potential, and it's now been tied up with Sony. You see, Sony and Arrowhead got together and they signed some contracts and other things like this, put together all the details of a deal that would let them develop this game, intending to make it something that Sony would be marketing. Sony was really big on this. In fact, they were very excited about this game from all indications. But, and here's the big but, they required that in order for cross-platform play to work and all the other features, that the developer include the ability to use the PlayStation Network accounts. Not so bad if that's all it was, except Arrowhead kind of convinced Sony that they didn't need PlayStation Network accounts, at least initially, and so they were able to launch the game on Steam without that requirement. It's kind of been implied that they might want to do it soon enough, and if you've got a PlayStation Network account, it's simple enough to link up and go on. But if you're a PC player and you're on Steam, well, they've just pulled a whole lot of rug out from under you, because many of you probably don't want a PlayStation Network account, especially considering the leaking of personal data that PlayStation Network tends to have. And that's just the start of the problem. You see, Arrowhead didn't really communicate this requirement, then the change that was going to be needed in the near future to set up a PlayStation Network account, even for those who logged in from Steam and those that may have been you purchased the game entirely on Steam. We'll never see a Sony PlayStation or anything like thereunto. So now we've come forward several months. This requirement has started to come to a head, and it started to get out there. And Arrowhead has been, well, they finally kind of communicated that this was going to happen. And the public has gone absolutely nuts. There are a ton of people who are in countries, for instance, that the PlayStation Network is actually banned from, or at least not operational in. So there's only 69 nations. And a whole bunch of people have ponied up their $40 that may be outside of those nations that are involved. Now, some of you will say, well, okay, that doesn't affect me. I'm in the United States. I'm in the United Kingdom. I'm in a place where the PlayStation Network is totally legal and fine. And that's well and good. In fact, my own kids are likely to just go ahead and register accounts, expecting that they'll just continue forward. But what if you're in one of the other, 100 and some odd nations that don't have the PlayStation Network? Well, now all of a sudden the player base is going to shrink a whole lot. And so Arrowhead's tried to kind of convince Sony that it wasn't needed, and it's kind of gotten into a bit of a fuss, and then the contract law, and it's getting a bit messy. Of course, now that the public knows about it, well, they have been responding, shall we say, poorly. You can purchase this game from all over the globe. You can only play it if you're in one of Sony's 69 approved countries. The 3 months of players who ate from the list now have a brick of a game. How does that seem fair? Or, I don't want the PlayStation Network requirement. Service guarantees citizenship. This negative review is my vote against it. A required third-party connection to the PlayStation Network is a threat to managed democracy and a clear sign of automaton interference. So it's not popular, and the reviews on this have gone from overwhelmingly positive to overwhelmingly negative in just a few days' time. In fact, over the last week, I believe over 100,000 reviews have come in, nearly all negative. And the initial response was not very good. I mean, the Arrowhead did have a community manager who, shall we say, put his foot into his mouth, and it did not go over well initially, and that even really fueled a lot of the issues. So the negative reviews just started pouring in. And now the community managers have changed their tune. They're rethinking things. Sony has actually officially stopped selling the game in non-PlayStation Network countries anymore on Steam, so they've restricted access to the game overall now, which at least is a step. Not necessarily in the right direction, but at least it's a step. So there is obviously, Sony is having to deal with some of the fallout from this situation. But Steam is really seen the reviews and is starting to respond. And even if you've been playing Helldivers 2 for a while, you put in a request for a refund and Steam is going to do it now. It's really looking like that Sony's the one that's under the gun at this point, and it does not look like it's going well for them. Or as CEO of Arrowhead has stated, on a serious note, we are talking solutions with PlayStation, especially for non-PSN countries. Your voice has been heard, and I am doing everything I can to speak for the community, but I don't have the final say. In the end, you have to decide one way or another if you are going to cave in to the PlayStation Network requirement. So ask your doctor if a PlayStation Network account is right for you. Side effects may include having your identity stolen and your credit card rating absolutely destroyed. More seriously, this is going to be a question for the long term. Helldivers 2, the quality of the game, at least for the introduction and the videos and things, are absolutely stellar quality. I was absolutely blown away with the quality of the graphics and the video and the controls I'm kind of hinky with, but that's something to be learned, not something to be worried about. Now, I have not played into the game itself, but my boys have told me it is absolutely amazing. And we're not talking, teenagers here. We're talking adult boys in their 20s. So that's what we're looking at. And really, it's clear that this game is something exceptional in an overall media landscape that is absolutely full of same, and dull. So will this destroy Arrowhead Games? Will it destroy the Sony reputation? Admittedly, there's not much reputation to save for Sony. They don't have a whole lot of material to work with in that particular front. But it could potentially sink a very promising games developer if this is not resolved in a way for everybody to be satisfied and continue forward. By losing all those other nations, they may not lose a huge number of players, but they lose a whole lot of goodwill. So let me know what you think. Are you going to be joining in on Helldivers 2? Is this a game that you are going to be playing? I have several friends who are already playing this game, and of course, as I mentioned, some of my kids. So clearly, they've done something right. But this PlayStation Network may be a deal breaker for many others. Let me know in the comments below. Give me that old thumbs up if you enjoyed today's newsy video rather than a gameplay video. And let me know if you want to see some Helldivers gameplay from me, because I don't know that I'm going to go so far as to get the PlayStation Network myself. And since I've logged in before the deadline, that should give me another month to find out. Let me know in the comments. You have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next video.